So my parents cut me off for supporting Donald Trump. My family disowned me. My cousins don't speak to me. I'm alone in this world, but you know, it's cool. I'm still going to fight for what I believe in. I'm going to fight for what I believe in. The Democrats love to brainwash black people into thinking that they're the best candidates for this country. But I ain't believing that shit. Make America great again. Trump, baby.
You fucked around with your vote. Now it's time you found out. Am I the asshole for cutting off my sons financially after they voted for Trump? I, 52 male, have two sons, Isaac, 22 male, and John, 20 male. My wife and I have always leaned left politically, and we've raised our kids to value equality, compassion, and critical thinking. We've had countless family discussions about politics and the impact of policies on people's lives. So you can imagine my shock when I found out after this last election that both of my sons voted for Trump. It came out during a casual family dinner when I asked, "So, who'd you guys vote for?" expecting them to either dodge the question or name one of the candidates aligned with our values. Isaac shrugged and said, "Trump. His policies just make the most sense right now." John chimed in, "Yeah, I mean, he's about protecting the economy. People like us need someone who gets that." I stared at them, stunned. "People like us?" I asked. "Boy, you've never paid for a single tank of gas, let alone rent or tuition. What exactly do you mean by that?" Isaac rolled his eyes. "Dad, I'm studying business. Trump's pro-business. It's not that deep." "It's plenty deep," I snapped. "You're backing someone who's gutted protections for the environment, undermined health care, and actively targeted marginalized communities." John shook his head. "You're just looking at the negatives. He's strong on immigration and keeping jobs here." The conversation spiraled into a heated debate. I couldn't understand how they, having grown up with every advantage I could provide, could support someone who champions policies that harm so many people. That night I thought about how much my wife and I had sacrificed to give them opportunities. I worked extra hours to cover their tuition so they wouldn't have student loans. I paid for their gas, car insurance, and even groceries. And this is what they choose to do with that privilege? A few days later, I told them my decision. "If you want to support Trump's policies, you should also live by them," I said. "From now on, you'll need to cover your own tuition, rent, and living expenses. Maybe then you'll understand the real-world impact of the policies you are endorsing." Isaac was furious. "Are you serious, Dad? You're just cutting us off because we disagree with you politically." "It's not about disagreement," I said firmly. "It's about accountability. You voted for someone who's against student loan forgiveness, so take out loans. You support someone who doesn't believe in raising the minimum wage, so get a job that pays what it pays and figure it out." John looked hurt. "You're being petty. This isn't how you change someone's mind." "This isn't about changing your mind," I replied. "It's about giving you a dose of reality. FAFO ain't just some cool hashtag you and your little friends use. It means there are consequences to your actions. Political choices have consequences. You're adults now. It's time to act like it. You fucked around with your vote. Now it's time you found out." My wife thinks I'm being too harsh. She worries this will damage our relationship with them long term. She said, "They're young. They're still figuring out their beliefs." "Beliefs have consequences," I told her. "They made a choice. Now they'll learn what that choice means." Some of my friends agree with me, saying it's a fair wake-up call. Others think I'm letting politics come between family and being unnecessarily cruel. So, am I the asshole for cutting off my sons financially because of their political choices? You know, you got a good point. I don't think you're the asshole. I think you're going to let them find out what they fucked around with, their vote. And voting has consequences.
By now, you have probably heard about this trend, Unfriend MAGA. It was a trend that was trending after election, where many people were surprised to find that some of their friends, their family members, their boyfriend, their girlfriends were supporting MAGAs. And it pushed them to make some decision, and those decisions were quite difficult. Now, there's no way somebody who considers himself or herself to be your friend or to be your girlfriend or to be your boyfriend can vote for someone who is against your own rights, who is against your own personal interest. Yes, we can be friends and still have different political views, but at this time, when it comes to the case of Donald Trump, it's no longer about the political views. Now, it's about somebody's right. Because this president is against many people's right and has been making some terrible changes that can affect many people's right. Now, as we're watching these following videos of other people who also found themselves in those situations, either being a friend of a MAGA or being a girlfriend or a boyfriend of MAGA, or maybe their children have voted for MAGA. I want you to tell me down there in the comment section, what would you have done if you found yourself in the same situation? Would you cut ties with those MAGA supporters, or you just keep that relationship with a MAGA voter? Let me know your own opinions down there in the comment section, and stick around and watch this one until the end.
Today's FAFO story is titled, "Am I the asshole for calling off my engagement after my partner revealed he is MAGA?" My fiance and I have been together since 2013 when we met in college. He struggled to get a well-paying job, and during his long bouts of unemployment must have been radicalized to blame everyone else. I chalked it up to depression and tried to get him help with therapy. I paid for him to return to school to become a nurse too, but he still has not completed the prereqs after 7 years. He currently works gig jobs while I am a nurse in California, making close to $400,000 a year, working a full-time and a part-time job. I was hoping to save up enough to not have to work after having a baby, since I cannot rely on him. We were planning to get married next year and wanted to try for a baby. He knows I am very liberal and all about women's rights. He never openly expressed support for MAGA itself until after Trump won and said Trump will help the economy and finally allow him to get a good job. I told him that it was the easiest time to get a job in the past 20 years in 2021, yet he couldn't. I am not giving in to sunken costs and staying, and he didn't know. But he did make offhand comments before on women losing their worth the older they get, and I questioned him, and he said it was a joke. The past week has been miserable listening to him talk nonstop on how great Trump is and how he will turn everything great again. I had it and gave him notice to leave by the end of the month, and we are through. He said it's unfair and told me it's stupid to give up on us over just politics. The very fact he said that solidified the notion that he is so clueless and our values are too different. He will likely have to move back into his parents' home or be homeless, since he makes less than $35,000 a year in the most expensive region in the USA. Am I the asshole for throwing away my relationship of 11 years over politics? I wish politics were boring again. No, you are not the asshole. And this is not a problem of politics. This is a problem of morality.
I got a fuck around and find out story that I want to share with everyone, because it's a good one. Now granted, the find out part hasn't been 100% realized, but somebody is shitting their pants right now. Good family friend works as a teacher in a local school district, and as a special education teacher. Diehard Trump fan, voted for Trump, was beating her chest all about it. Mid-30s, she actually just got this job a couple of years ago and was very excited about the opportunity. But what she didn't realize for some reason, and just recently found out yesterday, in fact, was that her position is 100% funded by a federal grant from the OSEP program. Yeah, OSEP is Office of Special Education. It's a division of the department, the U.S. Department of Education, and they provide federal funding in the form of grants to assist in local communities, ensuring that they have proper coverage, if you will, and funding for special education needs. This lady's job is 100% funded by that office. So the find out hasn't been 100% realized, but this lady is scared, because now all of a sudden she does care about the Department of Education, and she does appreciate it. She flat out said that she didn't know that, and if she had, maybe she might not have voted for Trump. The reason she says that is because she knows and believes that Trump is, in fact, going after the Department of Education. She didn't think it affected her, so she didn't give a fuck. She gives a fuck now. So I don't want to laugh at the lady. It sucks. But at the same time,
Trump in the November election. Then in February, she was fired from her civil service job.
Absolutely, I feel a little bit betrayed.
She was among more than 125 people dismissed last month from the Treasury Department's Bureau of Fiscal Service in Parkersburg, West Virginia.
There's always that back and forth conversation now. It's like, you knew this was coming, but we didn't. Like, nobody that I've talked to understood the devastation that having this administration in office would do to our lives.
No kings, no tyrants, no kings, no tyrants.
The cuts have shaken up a community that overwhelmingly voted for Trump. He won West Virginia with 70% of the vote, one of his biggest victories. But the betrayal felt by Pigott, a church-going conservative and three-time Trump voter, comes as political analysts are examining early signs of a possible backlash in Republican strongholds like Parkersburg, where the government-slashing efforts of Trump and Doge are beginning to hit home.
Elon Musk has basically taken over our government and has called the shots, unfortunately, it seems to be.
A handful of Republican voters who lost their federal jobs joined Democrats at a recent anti-Doge protest near the Bureau of Fiscal Service offices in Parkersburg. But the federal job losses in the state could soon extend beyond the BFS building, says West Virginia University economics professor John Deskins.
West Virginia is at the very top of the states in terms of the federal workforce as a share of total workforce in the state. So if the federal layoffs happen, if they hit West Virginia, we stand to suffer a disproportionate share when those jobs disappear, when that income disappears, when that spending leaves the state economy.
But in Reuters interviews with 36 workers, business owners, and politicians in Parkersburg, nearly all said that Trump's focus on cutting government spending was a worthy goal. And Reuters Ipsos polling shows Americans' attitude toward Trump are so far essentially unchanged since he began firing federal workers in February. As of this week, his approval rating was holding steady at 44%.
Cutting costs and waste and fraud and. We love that big picture. I love that big picture. My friends, we were excited about that because it is true. But again, I can't help but go back to the fact that what is the decisions that you're making right now solving in the big picture? It just so the concept of voting for that again, voting for Elon Musk essentially to wreck people's lives, I can't do it.
The economic impact of the mass dismissals across America may not be immediately felt. So far, 100,000 government workers have been fired or taken a buyout. Parkersburg is bracing for another round of layoffs, with all government agencies ordered to make plans to cut career staff by March 13th. Jennifer
uninvited me from their wedding, and now I have the wonderful pleasure of uninviting them from holiday activities because they voted for Donald Trump. I just want to know what you guys think of the whole entire situation and if I'm being petty, if I'm being unreasonable. Just to give you guys a heads up, my brother gets free healthcare, my brother goes to school for free, and I helped him apply for all of those government programs. In addition to that, I gave my brother a free BMW SUV. He drives a free car, I pay for his car insurance, and I pay for his cell phone bill. In addition to that, he lives at home and completely relies on the financial assistance of my mother. So this boy has the audacity to not only vote for Donald Trump, who is against women like myself and my mother, but then he has the audacity, after my mother was crying all day yesterday, he comes home celebrating his victory and rubbing it in my mom's face. Now, I understand we all have different opinions and political views, but you do not go to the home of a woman who financially supports you and rub it in her face. Go ahead, laugh about it with your friends, laugh about it with your unemployed fiance. It has now been over a month that I cut my brother off and I no longer answer his phone calls because the only reason he called me anyway was when he needed money. And I know that's really hard to do, and I know right now a lot of people are going to have some very uncomfortable Thanksgivings and Christmases, but at the end of the day, I really encourage you all to protect your peace. I'm not saying that you need to cut out every single person in your life that doesn't agree with you politically, but if after this election someone is literally taunting you, laughing at your face, and disrespecting you, regardless of what political party they are a part of, that person doesn't need to be in your life.
My vote. Don't pretend you didn't know it was going to go like this. Everyone knew. Wasn't expecting him to be anti-cancer funding. This is the exact same party who campaigned on defunding the Department of Education. This is the exact same party who year after year after year refuses to fund free school lunches for children. This is the exact same party who voted against removing BPAs, a known carcinogenic, out of baby bottles. And you are surprised that they're against funding cancer research? I mean, it's the Republicans. They're trying to actively get rid of the polio vaccine. Your party is anti-intellectual. They do not like science, and you're surprised that they don't want to fund cancer research? Your guys' party is against any social programs for absolutely anyone. They don't want to help anyone or anything except themselves. You have voted billionaires into office, and you are surprised that they don't want to fund cancer research. Wow, this is the biggest, funniest, most bestest FAFO moment, isn't it? When you guys are crawling back simply because you're realizing, oh my gosh, voting for that man was absolutely...
Those people that are now trying to say, well, just because we voted differently doesn't mean that we can't still be friends or family or whatever. It absolutely fucking means that. Politics aren't some ambiguous thing that doesn't affect people's lives in any way, shape, or form. It's not like we voted differently on fucking Dancing with the Stars. When you vote for Josh Hawley or Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell or any other dipshit conservative out there, and no matter what answer you give, what you're telling certain people in your life is whatever dumb fucking reason I voted for this individual is more important to me than you. When you tell your gay child that I voted for Donald Trump because he was going to make the price of eggs cheaper, you're telling your gay child cheap omelets are more important to me than your rights. When you tell your daughter that I voted for Josh Hawley because he was going to help bring down the price of gas, what you're telling your daughter is it's more important to you to be able to fill up that fucking Ford F-250 that the only thing you've ever hauled with it is your laptop on the way into work, that is more important to you than her future, than her bodily autonomy, than her ability to make her own decisions when she gets older. That's exactly what you're telling them. And it's not like you guys have an excuse. It's not like you guys can say, oh, well, you know, they said one thing and when they got elected, they did something totally different. They made the fact that they were going to fuck with the LGBTQ plus community, the BIPOC community, women, handicapped, all of those people. They made that shit the linchpin of their fucking campaigns. So no, even if you do realize one day that you fucked up and you want your kids back in your life or your friends or whatever, they don't owe you forgiveness. Not the only thing family is good for is if you need a fucking kidney. That's it. If you burn those bridges, those people are under zero fucking obligation.
College-age Republicans and podcast bros that pretty much only voted for Trump because they thought it would be funny and they didn't think it would affect them too much because they're like upper middle class. And they missed that period in like 2014 where they could get away with saying slurs openly and disguise it as dark humor. That last part is really what they mean when they're complaining about wokeness and cancel culture is, you know, they got yelled at by like a liberal in college one time after saying the F slur to their friend in public. And that's like unironically how we got here is a bunch of immature little boys who aren't necessarily full-blown MAGA, but, you know, they just don't like being told what to do or what to say or to be a decent person, I guess. And they think that Trump is sort of entertaining. So they don't know anything about politics. They didn't do any research about his policy decisions. And they don't really have well thought out opinions themselves, which is why they're so quiet right now. And that's also why when a guy says they're not into politics, that's a massive red flag because they're just kind of shielding the fact that they are a Trump supporter. There are tens of thousands of college-age Republicans and podcast bros that pretty much only voted for Trump because they thought it would be funny and they didn't think it would affect them too much because they're...
I don't have any proof of this. It's just a theory. But most of the MAGA hats were made in China. I believe the Chinese used a special type of red dye that eventually breaks down and seeps into the heads of the users, making them irrational, unable to accept facts, and wiping out 90% of their IQ. I think that's what happened to the MAGAs.
Something that is crazy is that I will say that 2024 election was basically a reality test for relationships. Some people were together for years thinking they knew their partners. And then the election night came. And suddenly they are looking at them like, wait, you voted for who? And look, I get it. If your partner supports policies that go against your own rights, your values, your very existence, how do you even stay with them? It's not just politics. At that point, it is about the fundamental morality issue. Like, imagine planning a future with someone only to find out that they are out here defending racism, cheating for policies that hurt your own community, and thinking that January 6th was not a big deal. At that point, do you need wedding vows or do you need an escape plan? I've heard some stories of how people who were dating MAGA voters decided not just to inform them the reason why they're breaking up with them. They could straight up ghost them, not even telling them that they are breaking up with them because they have voted for Trump. And I don't blame them, because like, how do you even start that conversation? Would you say, hey babe, I love you, but your support for Trump is giving me nightmares? Sometimes you just got to vanish. And let's be real, a lot of MAGA voters aren't exactly open to different perspectives. You try to reason with them, and the next thing you know, they are calling you a labor ship, or they are sending you Fox News links at 2 a.m. Sometimes the best way to win an argument is to leave them arguing with themselves. Now, talking about that father who cut off his son's funding just because they have voted for MAGA, I think that was a good decision, because sometimes people make terrible decisions just because they will not be affected by those decisions. Now, those sons were not paying any bill. They were not buying any groceries. They were not paying rent. They just didn't know how effective their decisions can be. Now, their father taking the decision of cutting their fundings, they're gonna learn a lesson that voting is not just about voting. When you voted for someone, we come up with policies, and those policies will affect people in their daily lives. He may come up with those policies which may make the price of groceries increase. He may come up with those terrible policies that may make the cost of rent increase. Now, those sons are going to learn a lesson that you don't always just vote out of emotions. You have to vote for someone considering that who you are voting for will come up with policies that will affect you in your own daily lives. Now, the lady who cut off his brother just because he was a MAGA voter, I will say that always cutting off your family member is never easy. It's never easy. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, because there is no way you can come from work and then you arrive home and then you are finding your brother is ranting about how Trump is the chosen one, or maybe your cousins are ranting about those conspiracy theories about vaccines. It will affect your own peace, and I think it's always good to choose your own peace. Yes, it is very hard to cut your family members, but when you found that he or she is a MAGA level toxic, you've got no other decision except cutting off him or her just for the sake of your own peace. And here is what MAGA folks don't get. It is not just about politics. It's about values, it's about humanity, it's about what kind of world you want to live in. Like, if someone supports banning books, restricting rights, deporting your friends, or taking away healthcare, that is not just about difference of opinions. That is a direct threat to people's lives. They always say, why can't we just agree to disagree? But how do you even agree to disagree when the disagreement is about basic human rights? That's like saying, let's just agree to disagree on whether you should have rights. I think there are some things which are non-negotiable. If it's about human rights, no other negotiations. I will say that this topic was a weird one because relationships were ended, families got cut off, and people had to make some hard choices. But honestly, I respect it. At the end of the day, we all deserve to be surrounded by people who align with our values. So what do you all think? Would you cut off a MAGA fiance or would you try to fix them? Drop a comment and let us talk about it. And of course, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe and turn on the notification so that you don't miss the next episode. See you in the next one. Ciao.